And we are back with the the fourth segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this fourth segment, we're going to continue looking at the anonymous GM poll, and we're going to see like what questions they were asked and what was the more popular answer for these questions. So, for example, the GMs were asked which team is the most fun to watch. And to that, they answered the Indiana Pacers. The Pacers ended up receiving 37% of the vote, and as a result, were in first place. And I could see this. I could see a lot of people finding enjoyment out of the Pacers. Like, simply put, there's never a dull moment in the Pacers' offense, primarily in their offense. And in a league that really values offensive skill and offensive talent, they're honestly like one of the more perfect teams to watch if you're really looking for some enjoyment. Like I said, there's never a dull moment. This is one of the more fast-paced teams. Ironically, they're the Pacers. One of the more fast-paced teams in the entire NBA. Like, they move quick and they try to get up as many shots as they possibly can. And I mean, you see it in a lot of these games. Like whenever they're in an inbound, they do not jog down the court. They run down the court and they take advantage of a player wide open for three, or teams being slow to get back on defense. Like it was a very, very popular thing. Tyrese Halliburton would sometimes heave the ball down the court to try to force difficult situations for the defense, and they move very, very fast. Like, it's kind of ironic that their name is the Pacers because they really move at a very, very high pace. Another team that ended up receiving a huge portion of the votes was the Oklahoma City Thunder. I believe a huge part of that is because of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, along with Chet Holmgren as well. I do have to give respect to Chet because he is also a very good talent in the in the NBA as well, and a pretty solid option coming in for the team for the Oklahoma City Thunder when SGA isn't really doing all that much on the offensive side, because again, it's like, it's rather tough just relying on SGA, as we saw in the postseason when the Dallas Mavericks were able to dispose of the Oklahoma City Thunder, mainly due to their lack of experience. The Denver Nuggets ended up receiving 10% of the votes, tied with Golden State. Again, I think a huge reason why is because of watching Jokic and watching Steph do their thing. And then at number 5 is the Boston Celtics that ended up receiving 7% of the votes. And, I mean, the Pacers receiving the most votes, I have no real problem with that. Again, they do move really fast, and it's like there's never a dull moment. And HR in the chat, Warriors can shoot. Yes, I saw that that preseason game that they played when they made 23 three-pointers. Yes, they can shoot. If you're interested in what I thought about that game, then I did that segment. I believe I did it yesterday. So you can look at the basketball podcast and you can see what I had to say about that. And let's continue down the list. Next, the GMs were asked which team has the best home court advantage. They answered the Denver Nuggets, and the Denver Nuggets received 47% of the vote. And I can see that. I mean, the Denver fans are very loud, and they really they know what it's like to they know what you need in order to gain a home court advantage. They know that boost that they get when they play in the home court. And another team that was the second team was OKC, ended up receiving 17% of the votes. Boston Celtics and the New York Knicks ended up getting 13% of the votes, which is rather surprising. I expected their votes to be a little bit higher, especially the Knicks, because I mean, like, while I do agree that there is a lot of pressure playing in the Garden, especially as a Knicks player, that home court advantage that they end up getting with the crowd screaming and all of this, and like the crowd saying this, the crowd saying that, the crowd just being in favor of the Knicks, I really like. There's really a lot of hardcore Knicks fans out there, and they're so diehard and they're so hardcore that it's like they took over the Philadelphia 76ers stadium. It was crazy to me because, like, again, a lot of fans, they weren't a lot of Philly fans, I guess they didn't really reserve a ticket for the game, but since New York and Philadelphia, they're relatively close to each other. Like, it's really, you could take a train all the way down to Philadelphia and you could be at the game, no problem. And a lot of Knicks fans, they took to that and they helped give the team the advantage that they needed in the postseason. It was so bad that Philadelphia fans ended up buying tickets for Philadelphia fans just so that wouldn't happen. It was a shot to the heart, really. And I'm very surprised that they didn't receive more of the votes, but still they're tied at third place, which isn't really all that bad. The Jazz ended up getting 7% of the votes, and the Kings got 3% of the votes. Again, I would have expected a little bit more from the Kings, especially now that they're good, but that's besides the point. I don't really have a problem with the Denver Nuggets being ranked a little bit higher than everyone else. I'm just more or less surprised at the fact that the Knicks didn't receive more votes, but that's just me. Now, the next question that I have here, or the next question that they were told to answer was, which team's level of success this season is the toughest to predict? And that is, of course, the Los Angeles Lakers. They ended up receiving 17% of the vote. And I agree with the GMs on this one because, yes, they do have the exact same roster that they had last year that didn't really do all that much. However, there is also some argument that Darvin Ham was a big reason why that team didn't really do that much. The rotations that he was putting in, all of these experiments and weird stuff, and the lack of doing stuff was a big problem with the Lakers and a big reason why they didn't really have all that much success. However, on the other side, you got LeBron James and you got Anthony Davis. So you could be a very solid team and a very successful team with those two at the helm and those two at the number 1 and the number 2 option. We've seen it done before. They can do it again. And again, when you have a team, when you're a team that has LeBron, especially in his prime, because let's face it, he's still playing the best basketball of his career to this day. And when you have a LeBron that is championship ready, it's like you never count him out. You just don't count him out. It's foolish to count him out early. I've never counted LeBron out until he's officially out. And there's just too much experiences that I have where I feel like this team is better than the overall team that LeBron has, and somehow LeBron just does LeBron things and ends up winning. Say LeBron again. Imagine. But again, they received 17% of the votes, and it also has to do with the fact that JJ Redick has no coaching experience, so we have no idea exactly how well he's going to be as the Lakers head coach. I personally think anything is better than Darvin Ham, and with the way that JJ Redick seems to approach the game, I'm feeling rather confident on his head coaching career for the Lakers. Now, again, they received 17%, so Houston ended up receiving 13% of the votes, along with the Pelicans that also received 13% of the votes. And I can understand why we're not sure exactly the success on the Houston Rockets. They are a rather young team trying to compete in a very top-heavy Western Conference. Actually, not even a top-heavy, a very dominant Western Conference. And with the young talent that they have, Jalen Green's inconsistencies, and we're not exactly sure how well Sengun is going to develop, there are a lot of questions, and I totally understand the concern. Not to mention the Pelicans, who also have made a lot of off-season moves, acquiring DeJounte Murray, not having a rim-protecting center. It's going to be rather interesting to see how the lineup meshes. And fourth is the Phoenix Suns with 10%, and then tied at fifth is the Dallas Mavericks and 76ers with 7%. And I don't really know why I understand, the 76ers concerns, like having a new player like Paul George on the roster. There's going to be a lot of questions, and not to mention the history that the 76ers have in choking. There's also going to be concerns about that. So not a really big issue for these lists and the voting, in my opinion. However, this one I got a problem with. So they were asked which player is the best passer. They voted Nikola Jokic. No problem with that either. He received 70% of the votes, and I understand why. He's a phenomenal passer. He's a great playmaker. The biggest problem that I have here is that LeBron wasn't even considered. No one voted for LeBron in this category. Like, they voted for Luka, understandable, no problem with that. Tyrese Halliburton, a little bit debatable, but again, no problem with that. And then there's Josh Giddey at fourth. Are you serious? You really think that Giddey is a better passer than LeBron James? Like, what is that? That does not make any sense. None whatsoever. And it's like, how? How on earth does that work? LeBron is easily one of the smartest basketball players in the entire NBA. You can make the argument that Jokic is a little bit smarter and playing a little bit smarter now. I have no problem with that argument given how great Jokic's passing has proven to be throughout the span of his career. But everyone else here, aside from Luka Doncic, honestly, like, really? Not a single vote for LeBron in this category? Not a single vote for LeBron in his passing in this category. Like, people are going to recognize him, and he's going to be known as a scorer, it's really difficult to figure out exactly what LeBron is going to be known as, to be honest. Is he going to be known as a scorer, or is he going to be known as a passer? Because to me, his passing is probably the best part of his game. And again, his scoring is there, but there's going to be a lot of people that are going to say, oh, LeBron wasn't that much of a scorer. He's a pass-first kind of player. And it's like, you could argue that that's his best skill set. And the fact that he received none of the votes in this voting, the fact that he didn't even receive one in, the players for consideration for this, and Josh Giddey got a vote, got 3% of the vote, that makes no sense. I am appalled at this right here. This makes absolutely no sense. LeBron is by far a better passer than Josh Giddey, without a doubt. Halliburton, again, that's up for debate. I have no problem if you think that, even though I personally don't really think that Halliburton is a better passer than LeBron. Luka Doncic, again, that's another respectable take. And Jokic, of course, he speaks for himself. But Josh Giddey? Really? I have no idea what on earth the GMs were thinking, but that's all that I really have for this segment, and that's really the biggest problem that I had in the segment, just the fact that LeBron didn't even get considered as one of the league's best passers, despite numerous times that he's proven that true. But I digress. So that's all that I have to say in this fourth segment. Now we're going to go ahead and go into the fifth segment, where I give a quick preseason recap of all of the games that went down. Well, the rest of the games that went down, because we ended up covering the Lakers, Bucks, Jazz, and Mavericks game. So I'll be right back after this short break. Be sure to stay tuned.